Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome all of you to our economic data release call. I'm Emily Oglesby, the Deputy Communications Director at the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Thank you for joining our call. I want to provide a few housekeeping directions to assist with the flow of the call. First, we're going to record this presentation and provide the update at the bottom of the statewide release that you can find at floridajobs.org. We will also share a link in this chat in this call so that you guys will have it when it's ready. So second, everyone's phone line should be muted and your cameras should be turned off. So please do me a favor and make sure your cameras are turned off so that everybody can see Adrienne when she begins to present and see her presentation as well. So you should see and hear our team on the screen at all times, and we will also do a screen share so that you have the ability to view our presentation. We're going to also be taking questions at the end of the presentation from credentialed media. In order to ask a question, you must submit your question in the Teams chat. So if you hover over your screen, you will see a chat icon. You need to click that button to enable the conversation feature within our meeting. We will not be able to accept questions through a private chat, so please use this option. Also to note, we are not going to answer any questions about reemployment assistance on this call. If you have any questions related to that, you can send your questions to media@deo.myflorida.com. I will share that email address in this chat feature as well. So feel free to send your questions as the presentation progresses, and we will get to them as soon as we can. So now I'm going to turn the call over to Adrienne Johnston, our Chief Economist. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So at 10 a.m. this morning, the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity released December 2020 labor statistics for the state of Florida and its sub-state areas. This included all metropolitan areas, counties, and large cities. These data were produced by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics through a federal-state cooperative agreement with DEO's Bureau of Workforce Statistics and Economic Research. These data were collected through a combination of employer and household surveys, administrative records, and statistical modeling techniques. So this morning, I'll walk you through the details of the data release, and I'll start with the household survey. So just bear with me one moment while I turn my presentation on for you to see. All right, you should be able to see my presentation now. And we'll start with the household survey. So the current population survey is used to estimate Florida's unemployment rate, total labor force, and labor force participation rate under the local area unemployment statistics program. And in our world, we call this LAUS. Since these statistics are based on a survey of households, they capture information about individuals, not jobs, and they're calculated by place of residence, not place of work. Florida's seasonally adjusted unemployment rate in December 2020 was 6.1%. This represented 614,000 jobless individuals out of a labor force of 10,143,000. Florida's December 2020 unemployment rate was 0.2 percentage point lower than the revised November 2020 rate and up 3.2 percentage points from the December 2019 rate. Florida's December unemployment rate was lower than the national rate of 6.7%. Florida's labor force was 10,143,000 in December 2020. This was down 276,000 from December 2019 levels, a decline of 2.6%. In December 2020, Osceola County had the highest unemployment rate at 8.7%, followed by Miami-Dade County with 7.3%. Wakulla County and St. Johns County had the state's lowest unemployment rate with 3.6% each. This was followed by Monroe County with 3.8%. So people can become unemployed for different reasons. A person can be unemployed because they lost their job. You'll note on this slide, these are referred to as job losers. They may have quit their job voluntarily. On the slide, these are job leavers. They may have re-entered the job market, re-entrants, or they could be entering the job market for the first time and have not found employment. These are our new entrants. In December 2020, involuntary job losers made up the majority of the unemployed, with 77.6% compared to 41.9% a year ago. And just a note, as I mentioned on the top of this slide, these are based on a 12-month moving average ending in December 2020. So we are still picking up effects from earlier in the year, and they aren't directly comparable to the unemployment rate that we just released this morning. So I just wanted to clarify that before I moved on. But in addition to the unemployed population, there were about 64,000 additional individuals that were not in the labor force due to discouragement over job prospects. This group has more than doubled from 30,500 a year ago, and this represents 0.6% of the labor force. Job creation data for Florida are derived from the Current Employment Statistics, or CES, survey conducted by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CES survey collects data from up to 20,000 Florida businesses and establishments each month to measure jobs by industry across the state. Since these statistics are based on a survey of employers, they measure counts of jobs, not individuals, and they capture characteristics of employers, such as industry or place of work. The total non-agricultural employment grew to 8,612,200 jobs in December 2020. This was up 16,800 jobs, or 0.2%, from November 2020. This figure is down 419,200 jobs from a year ago. That's an over-the-year decline of 4.6%. Florida's private sector non-agricultural employment was 7,533,400 jobs in December 2020. This was up 21,100 jobs, or 0.3%, from November 2020. Total private employment was down 371,300 jobs from December 2019. This represents an over-the-year decline of 4.7%. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this particular slide, but I do like to revisit it each month and point out that even though labor force employment growth has slowed to compared to the initial rate of growth after April 2020, the two data series are moving back towards their original relationship. So this is something that we will continue to keep an eye on over the months. Seven out of 10 major industry sectors in Florida gained jobs over the month. All major industries lost jobs over the year. Professional and business services gained 11,600 jobs over the month, but still remains 52,000 jobs below last December's mark. Financial activities added 4,800 jobs over the month, as did trade, transportation, and utilities. The industries that lost the most jobs over the month were government, which lost 4,300 jobs, leisure and hospitality, down 2,300 jobs, and education and health services, down 1,600 jobs. The December 2020 seasonally adjusted local area data showed that 19 of the 24 metro areas in Florida had over-the-month job gains. The West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Delray Beach metro area gained the most jobs with 6,900, and Panama City grew the fastest at a rate of 1.5%. Other metro areas with notable job growth were Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater metro area with 6,400 jobs, and the Port St. Lucie metro area with 2,200 jobs. And finally, I'd like to end with a comparison of recessions that we've experienced in the past. So in the most recent recessions, prior to the one we are currently experiencing, employment losses occurred over a period of several months or years. When the recession started in July 1990, it took 16 months for employment in Florida to reach the low point. When the Great Recession started in December of 2007, it took over 2 years for employment in Florida to reach its low point. When the COVID-19 recession started in February of 2020, the job losses happened over a period of only 2 months. By April 2020, Florida had lost more jobs than it did after 25 months of the Great Recession. After this 2-month period of job losses, Florida has experienced 8 straight months of job growth. As of December 2020, employment levels in Florida are at 95% of the pre-recession peak. And before I close out my remarks, I just wanted to remind everyone that we will not have a rate release in February. So each year we take some time to revise our monthly estimates for the previous year. So in March, we will release our revised 2020 data along with the January 2021 numbers. And that concludes my remarks this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hey guys, now we'll open everything up for questions. We have a great question from Nilda. She asked, can you talk a little bit about how the labor force participation rate is connected to the unemployment rate?
That is a great question. So labor force participation rate refers to the number of individuals out of the entire population of people who are eligible to work. So they're over 16, they're non-institutionalized, non-military, and so they're eligible to work and they're actually participating in the labor force. So that's our labor force participation rate. And then compared to our unemployment rate, that includes people who are participating in the labor force. They're actively looking for work, but they don't have a job currently. So what you want to see in terms of relationship between the two, you want to see your labor force participation rate increasing as your unemployment rate is decreasing. And that's actually what we are seeing right now in our state.
Okay, thank you. Bob asks, can you explain why the workforce has shrunk? Is it the people who've stopped looking for work, people leaving the state, etc.?
So that's a great question too. The way the survey is framed that produces these statistics, it asks individuals if they've actively looked for work in the last 4 weeks. 4 weeks. So what we're looking for there to see if somebody is considered to be unemployed or in the labor force, we want to know that they're actively looking for work. So if individuals are not actively looking for work, they're not counted in that labor force. Due to the nature of this particular recession, which is a result of COVID, we know that there are certain areas and there have been certain periods where people have not either been able to look for work or there are reasons why they would not be looking for work. I mentioned we do have some individuals who identified as discouraged. That is higher than it was prior to the pandemic, but that's not the full story. So there are some individuals who are not discouraged necessarily, they're just not actively looking for work at this time. And it could be for a variety of reasons.
Okay, do we have any more questions? Hey, Mike, I see that you have your hand raised. Can you type your question in the chat for us, please? Okay, last call for question. Is 6.1 healthy? Roy O'Neill asks.
So that's probably referring to what a lot of folks refer to as a full rate of employment. And so historically, we've looked at that rate as about 5%. So what we really want to focus on, though, are the trends related to that. So as I mentioned earlier, in response to a previous question, what's really important is that we're seeing our labor force grow. At the same time, we're seeing our unemployment rate decline, and that is what we're seeing. So nobody has a set rate that is the perfect rate. It's hotly debated among economists, but what I will say is the trend of seeing labor force actually increasing while our unemployment rate is going down, that's certainly positive. And this month, we actually saw unemployed individuals decline while we saw employed individuals increase. So that's what we're looking for, and that's what I would say is a positive sign.
Okay, thank you. Jim Turner asked, what were the biggest factors in the decline in the overall rate? With the numbers reflecting mid-December, how much impact does the arrival of COVID vaccines have on employment?
So good question. I don't know specifically that we have data to link the arrival of vaccines to increases in employment. We don't specifically have that laid out, but what I can say is it reflects a continuing trend of employment growth. That was a seasonal time that was positive. But it's even more than that. So even when we look at our our November and October rates, where you start to see seasonal employment grow, this month outperformed those months. So it just generally reflects a growing confidence in businesses reopening and adding jobs, and individuals going back into the labor market and finding employment.
Okay, Bob asks, can you explain the continued trend for Osceola and Orange counties being among the top counties for unemployment?
Sure. So we do have a lot more details for that available on our website. I'll point out there's a lot more that you can dive into for local area statistics. But what I will say for Osceola and Orange counties, for that area, tourism is certainly a large part of their economy, and that was an area in terms of an industry that was impacted more heavily than other industries. And so just the nature of their industry makeup has led to an elevated unemployment rate.
Thank you. Last call for questions. Please type them in the chat if you have questions to ask. You can also send specific questions about your community to media@deo.myflorida.com. Are there any more questions? All right, guys, thank you again for joining us on the call. We really appreciate it. If you have any additional questions, you can email media@deo.myflorida.com. I popped that into the chat for you as well. Please send any specific questions that you have there. We'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. And we won't see you next month, but we will see you in March. So have a great rest of your afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Bye.